Happy very early morning. I'm going to tie a fly this morning that is something that I've seen online a little bit, and I thought it's a good fly for just general fly tying with limited supplies, I guess. So I'm going to turn this around and show you what I'm talking about. I have a couple of examples. So this fly here, these are 3 versions of the same thing. I'm using, these 2 are the same hook, and this is more of a straight hook. This is more round. So the idea is, and this is true with most flies actually, you have a color here with a wire over it. You have something here under this hackle that creates a body that's kind of a fluffy body. You have some kind of material on the side of that portion that makes it flash. And then you have some kind of a hackle or feather that gives it some legs. And you'll see that here. You see the same thing here. And you see the same thing on this one. And then all it is just different color choices. And you put it together and make a fly. So what I want to do, it's a great fly for if you have a lot of scrap materials. And I've got in my bag here, these are my clippings. I've got tons of materials that are great for this. I've got some yarn pieces here. This is a 2-tone, this is the green, and on the end it's kind of orange, and it's got some other pieces stuck to it. So if I'm wanting to tie a fly and I've got some scrap pieces I'd like to use, I'm the kind of person that likes to find things to tie flies with anyway. I've got little pieces of yarn, the orange piece. Let's see. So just the things that I need are some wire. So there's a piece of wire right there. So I've got a piece of silver wire. I've also got a piece of copper that I might use that I pulled out already. I've got, let's see, I need some flash of some kind, and I always get these little short pieces of flash, and that's perfect length to use for this because you don't need much. So let's see if I got another piece like that in here somewhere. Just kind of pick around. Oh, there's one right there. Get it. There's another one. Those are not the same, but they still give some flash. A little reflection. And then some kind of a feather. You can use this duck feather. I think that's a duck feather. So got this little hackle. Might use that. So all kinds of pieces there. Sometimes when you're pulling off hackles, you pull off a couple of pieces and you throw the other one in the trash because it doesn't look like a good feather, but I think it'll work for what I'm doing. So let me now put this up in the vise. I've already got a hook in place. And then you just choose a thread color that you like, and then you tie to that. And I'm sorry for the extra noises. I don't usually start with holding the camera. I usually start with it already in the vise. Ooh, and I apologize for yawning. It's 3:45 and I have not been to bed yet. I'm just going to start with your typical wrap on the hook. Just want to cover the hook base there, or the shaft of the hook. And come down a little bit. And like my other ones that I showed earlier, I just want to come down and wrap over the bend of the hook there. just want to get a few wraps here to make sure I cover the hook shank. There are threads that are better for this. This is a very fine thread, and so it takes some turns to cover the shaft completely. A lot of that will be hidden. In some flies, a lot of it will be hidden with other materials. But this one just uses the black thread for the color of the body of the tail end. All right, so there I've got that, and I've got the thread just a little bit behind where the barb of the hook is, and I think that I'm going to use, I think I'm going to make this a kind of a copper, yeah, kind of like this other one here that I have, kind of a copper look. So I'm going to use this copper piece of wire. It doesn't need to be a long piece, really, long enough though to wrap forward. So I'm just going to start it down here at the end to reserve as much of it as I can. I don't want to, you know, sometimes you'll lay this wire over the top all the way to the head and then tie back over it. But I don't want to do that because this is not a very long piece of wire, and I actually might find that that's too short. And I'm going to bring it back to where I just want this body to come back to here and stop, and then I'm going to put whatever my fluffy material is here, and then right at the head I'll wrap the hackle, the feather. So now I'm going to take this wire, and it's a pretty short piece. I think I'm going to use my hackle pliers for this, just to get a better grip. And I like to take, I got this from an Irish fly tying video that I saw. He ties a lot with wire, and he likes to take 2 or 3 turns here at the tail first, just to give a little flash there, and then just wrap forward with some kind of gapped turns there, evenly spaced. And this just gives the impression of a segmented body. I'm going to let go of it right here. Just get a couple more turns out of that little piece of wire. It might be kind of silly to be as careful with the wire as I am as far as using scrap pieces, because, you know, you throw away a set of Christmas lights, and inside those lights is a bunch of wire, a bunch of copper. If you save any of that wire and strip out the plastic and take the copper out of it, you're going to have tons of copper wire like this. This is where I got this from. Tons of copper wire to tie flies with if you want to tie flies. All right, now I want to tie in my flash pieces. These are very short pieces, but all I got to do is hold them to the side here. It only takes literally a 1/4 of an inch long piece, really, maybe a 1/2 inch long. And you can see, even just tying that piece in, I can pull this back like that to where I'm barely tying it in, and it's just sticking down the side like that. I'm going to roll it over some more, but let's see if I can get it to come around. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And these are actually different pieces. These are different colors, I think, but I don't think you can even tell the color. You can just see that iridescent flash going on. So I'm going to wrap this forward. And so I've got a piece tied in on either side, like that. And I'm going to be using a very short piece of this and then cutting the rest off, so I can make several. So I've got that tied in. Now I want to go to that piece of yarn that I found that was kind of, well, this is a different piece, but it's the same color. This is some yarn that I have. I didn't buy like a whole bunch of this yarn. I saw some of this. It was a friend's house, I think, and I saw some yarn. And it's this yarn that changes color as it goes through. So when you make a scarf out of it, it randomly changes color. See, this is like green, and then it gets brown at the end. So I've got a piece of that brown. Not very much, but it's just enough. That's all I need. I think I've got some, whenever I made the last fly with this, I think that I put some wax in this. I have some bowstring wax for archery, and I just take and drag it between the wax and my thumb a couple of times, just because this yarn is very fluffy, and I just want it to lay down a little more. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to lay it over the head, capture it with the thread, and go back to where I had tied in that flash. And make sure that the flash is on the back side of this. And then, pretty simply, I'm just going to wrap this stuff. I need to wrap this forward where the head's going to be. I'm just going to take a few turns of this, just enough to build it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be built up real big. You can do this with bright colors. You can do this with darker colors. I've done it with black, which makes the flash stand out even a little bit more. As you can see with this one here. It's got the fluffy part, and then it's got the flash, and it really stands out. This is similar to the one I'm making right now. But the last time I did this, I used a piece of rubber leg, which has just a little piece of flash in it, right there, the orange piece. So I'm doing a similar fly, but I'm going to use a different flash on it. All right. So now I've got this kind of where I want it. I've made a kind of a clump there, and then I'm going to snip this off. And I'm holding my thread back out of the way so I don't snip that. And then back into the trash bin so I can make another fly later. Now, one thing about this, unless you've been tying other flies and have the same pieces of scrap, you may not be able to make the exact same fly twice, because you might only have one piece of scrap that's like that. That's the way it is in my case, because I often only make one fly at a time instead of making a bunch of flies. Because I don't make them for people, I make them for myself. Not that I'm not a person, but anyway, so you might grab some materials and make a fly, and that's the only one you make, and then you go and fish with it, and it's amazing, and then you can't recreate it. It's pretty sad. Anyway, stop yapping, finish this fly. So I'm pulling these two pieces forward, as you can see, pulling them to the side of that body. And then I'm just making sure that it stays on the sides there. Bring that up some. Like that. And sometimes you can even pull this back after you've tied a few times around, just to lock it on. Although I have a tendency to take more turns than I need. Usually, and the master fly tyers will tell you that once you tie a piece of material on, it really only takes 2 turns of thread to hold it in place until you get to the next part. So it's a little overkill for me. Okay, so now I've got, so I can get that to flash a little bit in the camera. Well, it doesn't look very flashy right now, but maybe there. Anyway, now I'm going to finish it off with a piece of hackle of some kind of a feather. So I have this one, This is some hackle that I have that would be pretty long, but I think it'll be cool. It's a little bit stiff, but I think I'll use this one. And this is a piece that I broke off to use, but then I didn't like the coloring there for the fly that I was tying, so it was in my trash bin. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a portion of this, just clean it off. And lay it beside the head here. And then I'm going to just pull this around. And when you pull this around, then those barbs stick up like that. And that's all there is to it. Just take 2 or 3 turns just to get some legs on it. And pull it to the side, wrap around. Pull my thread out of the way so I don't cut it. Pull the other barbs out of the way so I don't cut them. Snip that. Back in my trash bin for another fly later. Now I'm going to take my fingers and grab all of this and pull back some, so it lays back the way I want it. This is a wet fly. If this was a dry fly, I could leave that standing up, and it would help it stand on top of the water. But I don't want to do that. I want this to be a fly that sinks underwater. So I just keep pulling this back, and it'll lay back. And I just do enough turns to try to cover these pieces of feather sticking out. But I've got another trick, because that's actually fine, just like that. A little bit long on the hackle. I want it to kind of fade back like that. Anyway, there's that. I'm going to go ahead and put a half hitch in this. I'll show you how to do this. Take and wrap your string around your finger, then put your finger on the head, and then it falls over onto the hook. And that gives you a half hitch. Do a couple of those. Make sure that goes over the head. And then if you like to do this, you can use a whip finishing tool. There's a lot of people that whip finish without using this tool, but I don't have any luck doing that. I've tried it. My thread just broke, but I got my tie-in that I needed. Just cut that extra piece off. I'm going to use, here we go. I have some black nail polish that I use for varnish. That I can hit that head and make it shine a little bit. This is literally just nail polish. Another option would be marker, like a black Sharpie, to touch up those spots that I don't like the look of. And then now I've got this fuzz sticking off here. That thread was a mess. Helps to have sharp scissors. There it goes. There we go. It's kind of ugly, but the fish won't care. So that's pretty much the fly. But it's a good way of seeing how just reutilizing scrap materials out of your little trash basket that's under your vise can turn into another fly that you can put in your fly box. So hope you enjoyed that. I haven't tied a fly in a while, so I'll be putting this on YouTube. This is a Facebook Live, but I always save these videos and put them on YouTube. So here's two different versions of the same. Different color hackles, different length hackles, different flash going on. Fish love that stuff. Hope you enjoyed watching. Have a blessed day. Stay well in this coronavirus craziness.